I can't get a job because I'm black. That reminds me of something Benjamin Zander. Anybody heard of Benjamin Zander? Benjamin Zander is the conductor of Boston Philharmonic Orchestra. Not only he's an accomplished musician, he is one of the most amazing speakers you would find anywhere. And if you don't have the fortune of listening to him in person, you can catch him on the YouTube. There are tons of videos of him. Benjamin Zander, go Google him and listen to him. Now he says something very interesting in many of his speeches. He says, what assumptions are we making that we don't know we are making? What assumptions are we making that we don't know that we are making? My student Sarah was making an assumption about her life without even realizing she was making it. She had imprisoned herself in the assumption of her own making. Let me take this story to a personal level, to my own very personal level, and story of how dreams can liberate you, or dreams can set limits on what you can become. A story of how our assumptions can clip our wings while we are trying to fly, chasing our dreams. Now, I had a very humble beginning in my life. For the first 6 years of my schooling, I did not sit at a desk. We used to, I think this story can be shared with many of the people in this group, and probably a lot more people outside, first generation immigrants to this country. Humble beginnings, then success comes. You know, in those days, we used to have these mats of jute rolled onto the floor and used to sit in a row when we went to school. It was probably in grade 6 or 7 that I first time sat at a desk in a school. And here I am on 1st of July. I would start as the vice president of the largest university in the country and one of the most prestigious university in the world. I've had an amazing journey in my life, and I'm grateful for it. It's a humbling experience for me to have gone through this journey. And ever since this announcement was made at the University of Toronto, I've been thinking about where did it all begin. It could have begun in one of those schools and on one of these jute mats and so on. And I have come to the conclusion that this journey actually started a generation earlier. And that's the story I want to share with you. I come from a small village near Jalandhar in the central Punjab. My grandfather was a peasant farmer. Didn't have very much land, had small amount of land, and he also tilled other people's land to make a better living than he could make on his own land. He had 4 sons. My father was the youngest of the 4. They, among other things, they used to grow sugarcane. And this would be in 1920s. So they had this sugarcane crop, and in those days, as some of it still goes on today, but in those days, the predominant trend was that you made your own, you harvested your sugarcane crop and you made your own sugar, raw sugar, what we call shakkar, on the farm, and you sold it, shakkar or gur. So that's what they were doing on the farm, and the little mill that they were using needed some oil. My dad was the youngest of the 4 brothers. They were all working on the farm. So he was the youngest and the least useful. So they told him, go home, get some oil. The home was about 2 miles away. He walked there. In the village, they had just started an elementary school. At that time, in the village mosque, I believe there was no Gurdwara at that point, organized Gurdwara. There was a mosque. It was predominantly a Muslim village at that point, with some Sikh families there. So there was a Gurdwara and the mosque, and there's this teacher standing there giving away candies, laddu, to the kids. And while you get laddu in one hand, in the other hand, you get a little book with nice pictures in it. And here's this, starry-eyed little kid who gets a laddu and a pretty book with pictures in it. He forgets about the oil. He sits down there, and he completely forgot about that oil, never went back to the farm. Back at the farm, they managed somehow, probably borrowed it from borrowed the oil from somebody else, a neighboring farmer. At night, everybody arrived at home. Now, my grandfather was a very gentle soul. He would not hurt a fly. But the same thing could not be said about the oldest brother of my father. He took my father by the arm and gave him a pretty good spanking that day. Got a good hiding. How the hell you didn't show up at the farm? What were you doing? Where were you? Of course, needless to say, next day my father did not go back to school. 2 days pass, 3 days pass, the teacher shows up at my grandfather's door. What happened to your son? We had him in the school. Why is he not coming to the school? Now here, my father had seen a dream by that time. My grandfather was still drawing that box around himself, box of assumptions that we don't know we are making. Here he is, he tells the teacher, says, "Sir, what are we going to do with this education thing? We are farmers. We are poor farmers. I have 4 sons. I need all of them on the farm. I can't give you one of my sons." Anyway, to cut the long story short, this teacher was a very stubborn teacher. He finally convinced my grandfather. He says, "Give me one of your 4 sons. I'll educate him. You keep the other 3. And he succeeded. He wore my grandfather down. My dad went through the education. He got a high school degree and then eventually ended up getting a forestry degree through his own efforts after he got his job. Realizing that assumption that we are farmers, we cannot do this, we can't do that, we have to be on the farm. Had it not been for that fact, I would probably not be today coming to University of Toronto. And if I can leave an inspiring or inspirational message to this group of people, that never let your own assumptions about possibilities become your prison. Your dreams set the limit of what you can achieve. Nobody has ever in human history gone beyond their dream. Dream is the ultimate limit for what you can achieve. And you will not achieve it if you keep putting that prison of assumptions around your dreams. This is a great country. Minister Tucker said that to us and everybody else, and we have experience. I've been here since 1982. It has been my experience that there is no greater country in the world. Look around here. This is one of the most exciting social experiments that has ever been attempted in a country ever. This experiment of multiculturalism, so many cultures, so many languages, so many religions coexisting, brought into a new place, coexisting and trying to create a new kind of Canada. And I've seen this new kind of Canada morphing through the past, it's almost 3 decades now since we've been here in this country. It is our responsibility that as we celebrate our rich traditions in congregations like this, we celebrate those traditions, we celebrate the diversity of those traditions, but we also must keep in mind that somewhere along the line, we have to find a way to find unity among these diverse groups. That unity amidst diversity is the key to the future of this amazingly beautiful experiment that is Canada. So my best wishes to all of you, to all of us, as we dream together about this wonderful Canada, free of any boxes, free of assumptions that we ourselves make, nobody else makes for us. Thank you very much.
I have a little gift for you. Thank you, Dr. Saini. I guess what he's trying to say is the sky is the limit. And we all are blessed to be living in a place like Canada, that we can live our dreams and live the dreams for our children and their children and their children's children. And we as educators and parents and brothers and sisters all have the same dream, to make Canada the seamless country it is, where we can cross over these limitations that we have for ourselves and move far beyond. Thank you, Dr. Saini. Let's hear it for Dr. Saini. I think his story about poverty and living, starting from the ground, given the opportunity that if we can only give our children